I'd like you to do a thought experiment with me for a minute. What would be the commercial value of a drug that had the following profile? In phase 3 clinical trials with a randomized controlled study, they determined that people that use the drug 2 to 3 times a week for 8 weeks decreased their depression and anxiety by 25 to 30%. And that was with about 500 patients. In a phase 4 retrospective study with 150,000 patients, they found the same results, that 2 to 3 times a week for 8 weeks decreased depression and anxiety by 30%. With regards to adoption and adherence, they found that 20 to 30% of the people they offered this drug to accepted the drug. And they also found that people that accepted the drug were still using it. 60% of them were still using it within 2 months. And 40% of them were still adherent to using the drug 12 months later. And with regards to impact, they found that 86% of the people that used the drug experienced some level of benefit, such as moving them from severe to moderate, or from moderate to mild, or from mild to not depressed at all. So what would the commercial value of such a drug be, and would it be considered a blockbuster drug? I want to tell you a little bit about that drug. At Happify, we have taken from our founders' experience with video gaming platforms where they had 66 million daily users of their casual games. We've taken that science of engagement and we've applied it to healthcare to crack the code on activating patients to use a drug, or digital therapy in this case, retention and outcomes. We've had about 4 million people use the therapy so far, where 20 to 30% of the people we offered it to through social media or through employers or through health plans accept the invitation and download it to use it. 86% experienced some meaningful improvement in their mental health over a 2-month time frame. 58% are still using it 2 months later. 40% are using it 12 months later. And we find in our controlled trials that we get 4.5 times improvement in depression, 2.5 times in resilience, and 2.5 times in anxiety. I want to play a video here of some experiences.
Out of a really dark place.
I'm more positive, less stressed out.
Learned a lot of ways to deal with my anxiety and panic attacks.
Exercise is part of the routine. I see Happify as part of the routine.
That is rooted in scientific data and research.
It's there for me 24/7.
Has allowed for me to kind of bury my depression and move forward.
My family and friends have really noticed a difference in me since I've joined Happify.
My mood's gotten better, I'm more positive.
The world is a hectic place, but your mind doesn't have to be.
I'll keep coming back for a long, long time.
We know when we look at numbers of different diseases that are treated with pharmaceutical products that we have very high levels of depression, anxiety, and stress associated with those diseases. When you look at things like psoriasis, eczema, you tend to see levels of depression and anxiety at 60%. With arthritis, 43%. With mental health, there will be 44 million people in the United States that will have some sort of a major mental health event this year, yet 60% of these people will be untreated. Cardiovascular disease shows very high levels of depression at 65%. Respiratory, like asthma, COPD, has high levels. Diabetes has 3 times the level found in the normal population. And other sorts of diseases like HIV and hepatitis C have very high levels of depression. You find that with rare diseases like hemophilia, Gaucher's disease, and with oncology you find 6 times higher levels of major depressive disorder among that population. If you look at something that we heard yesterday from Joris van Dam from Novartis, they polled MS patients and they found that there were 6 things that MS patients care about in ranked order. Number 1 was anxiety, number 2 depression, number 3 cognitive function, number 4 fatigue. These top 4 things their drug does nothing for. Their drug focuses on mobility and motor function. So our view is that you should be trying to address the whole person, not just the physical elements of their disease, but all the issues that really drive their life, quality of life and happiness. When you look at psoriasis as another example, there's a great report done called the Psoriasis Happiness Report. And in that report, they show that people are twice as impacted with twice the level of impact on their quality of life, their personal life, based upon the stress and the depression they experience as opposed to the actual physical elements of the disease. Even when we look at mental health disorders like bipolar disorder, what we find is that though many of the drugs are very useful, and my daughter has bipolar and I've gone through all the different challenges that she has with medication, some of the drugs work wonderfully well for her. But when we look at the mania and we look at the depression, most of the issues that people deal with actually do not get dealt with well with the drug. There needs to be other types of interventions that help them with mindfulness, that help them with sleep and insomnia that they have with it, that also helps them with controlling their thoughts. So what Happify has done with its different studies has been able to demonstrate, in the case of a retrospective study on 152,000 people who've used our therapy, that if you take the therapy 2 to 3 times a week for 8 weeks, you decrease your symptoms of anxiety and depression by 25 to 30%. In a randomized controlled trial with 530 patients, we've been able to demonstrate the same. So our journey started, as I mentioned, by having some founders that came from the video game industry that believed that if you do not get consumers to willingly take your therapy, you will never be successful. And so we launched initially as a consumer product to get to about 500,000 users. And through that, we're able to fine-tune and optimize and improve our approach to increase its efficacy. We then got noticed by some employers and some health plans who saw that we were #1 ranked on the App Store and said, "We are very concerned about mental health with our members and our employees. Could you help us with that?" So we began then at that point to pivot our business model to focus on the enterprise. And with that, got up to about 2.5 million users of our platform. Some of the health plans that began to offer our solution to their members said, you know, we've seen studies that show correlation between medical costs and depression. And so we'd like actually to focus now on chronic diseases with you, because we have very high costs with our chronic disease population, and we believe that if we can tackle their depression, we can decrease their medical costs. Then we got noticed by some pharma companies who said, okay, you're dealing with chronic diseases with health plans, you're dealing with productivity and engagement with employers in health plans as well. Most of our patients suffer from depression and anxiety. Could you work with us on trying to treat that disorder with these patients that have another physical disorder? And so we are now in discussions and working on pilots with 3 different pharmaceutical companies. And this year we'll have about 4 million people in total who will have used our solution. And then this next year, we're embarking upon our FDA strategy where we will create some FDA-cleared versions of our product for other sorts of pharmaceutical-related applications. When we deal with pharma, our approach is to partner with pharma. And so we have 3 different business models that we're working with different pharmaceutical companies to achieve. The first we call a pre-prescription program. In that sort of a program, we offer our value proposition, which is happiness, to people through social media channels to attract them to our platform, but we do this in a very targeted way, where we identify people through social media that have specific medical conditions that are important to a pharmaceutical client. And we attract them to our platform, we educate them about our offering, as well as start to ask them some questions about their own physical conditions to identify what type of patient they are and what sort of additional therapy beyond our therapy they would benefit from. In the post-prescription program, these are for patients that a pharmaceutical company already has, and they want to offer some patient support programs in the form of mental health that we can offer them with that. And finally, a combined prescription where we would work with a pharmaceutical company to combine our therapy with their therapy in a combined offering to address a specific problem in a very targeted way. So our objective is to treat the whole person, the mental, the emotional, the physical, with a pharmaceutical partner. And so I thank you for your time, and I'd like to understand from many of you where you'd like us to help you with your patients. Thank you.